Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. Your boy Road Dogg here with the man, the myth, the legend, the man who likes to wear red jeans. That's a true story. The Big Shoots, King Karl Bryan himself. And don't deny, you have a pair of red.
I did, man. Did you know they were Big Star? They weren't Levi's. They were Big Star. My favorite jeans by 100 miles. They were red, and because I have very poor fashion sense, I'm pretty sure I wore them with like all kinds of, So I wasn't going to make it in a GQ magazine, but you're right, Shoots. In fact, when I moved to Australia, I had those jeans and I wore them everywhere. So how'd you know, Shoots? How'd you know? Well done.
Well, it was probably the 1980s. I was going to make you a little older there, but it's probably the 80s. You were rocking in your jeans. You were probably cruising some sort of beach, listening to the Miami Vice theme as well, if I had to guess.
Yeah, it's actually the 90s, but anyways, that's all right. Well, let's go with it. I had fun. I thought I looked pretty cool. Let me tell you. I don't think anybody else thought I looked cool, but I thought I looked cool, and that's what matters. So let's go.
Well, listen, bud, you're the coolest coach I know. How's that sound? You like that?
Buddy, let's put that one in the note Shoots and pull that one out in the future. I like it.
I'm all flattery today. I don't know what did I get a good night's sleep? Like I'm not as cranky as I usually am. I'm not sure what's going on here. Far too nice.
Not used to it.
Anyways, it's probably because I am pretty pumped up. I've actually got my notepad open. I'm ready to go because these first questions, I hear a lot from my coaches and just overall, I see this a lot. So if you don't mind, I just want to dive right in because this, I think, is going to help a ton of people. We're going to talk about stuff that's maybe not quite as sexy as maybe other topics, but it is accounting, it is numbers, and it's super helpful. So you always talk about jumping into a business and looking at their financials first. So first and foremost, the question that came in was, what happens if the client doesn't want to show me their financials? Like, what do you do? Like, how do you go about that situation?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that one before. Totally get it. Just look, imagine this, like you walk into a doctor's office and somebody's not willing to take a blood test or an MRI. Do you know what I mean? Like what would happen? Like, what do they say? Prescription without diagnosis is malpractice, right? So, look, the only reason they're not going to provide you financials is, I'd say, one, they don't trust you, right? Which this is a bad way to start a coaching relationship anyway. So you've really got to backtrack and establish that trust. I would say that there's a chance maybe that they lied, and that, oh yeah, my financials, this, that, and the other. And the truth is I don't have them at all, right? And now they feel like a bit of an idiot because they respect you and they like you and they feel like there's a relationship there. So you got to help them with, kind of crawl out of that one. And then if they have something to hide, right? Like if you wouldn't take a blood test, what would be wrong? Well, it's because you just been in a car accident and you had alcohol in your system, right? This would be the reason you'd be dodging that bad boy. Or maybe, again, somebody's got something horrific going on, like a disease that they prefer to keep to themselves. So think about that. Like, that's got to be the scenario. So basically, client won't show you their financials. I'd say that if they're responding in that manner, that you, the business coach, the consultant, the advisor, you're not really comfortable with financials yourself, right? So it's kind of a bit of one of those mirror situations. And unfortunately, the only way I know of to get better at this is you just got to hit the books. You got to start learning it. So if you're that person that says, yeah, I'm just not a numbers guy, I'm just not a numbers girl, I would caution you to really look in the mirror and say, hang on, if you really want to take it to the next level, if you really want to be a great business coach, you've got to be able to provide results for your clients. And what what we're talking about here, finance, accounting, some basic numbers, you've really got to build that foundation. End of story, right? Remember, it's not about you, it's about the client. And if you want to help them and serve them at the highest level, this is an important part of it. And don't get intimidated by it. It's about a million times easier than what most people think, but it is a journey that I encourage you to go on. I've been on it for a number of years, and it's a rewarding one. Anyway, so if you're hearing that, again, I think this is a mirror situation where you're not really comfortable with it, and that's why they're not comfortably showing it, right? And also it really shouldn't happen in a, what would I refer to, a semi-normal setting, right? Like, as per, they don't trust you, they either lied to you or they got something to hide, right? So that's what's going on here, so that you got to get to the bottom of what the real reason is. But look, you haven't established your preeminence and your authority. So therefore, they need to see it as a benefit to show you their numbers. And the way that I would do that, the way that I would position it, is I'm just going to spit out some examples, some metaphors, some stories of how I'm going to help them, how I've helped other people, when I looked at their business model and I looked at their financials, right? So like, this would be a classic example of where a business coach should have the canned stories, right? Like a politician, we've all seen it. No matter what gets asked, they spit out their story. You probably all heard Tony Robbins, seen Tony Robbins. He spits out the exact same story. He's been doing it for literally, 2-3 decades. He literally, a tear in his eye comes at the exact same time of the story, right? Brendan Bouchard, does the exact same thing. He's crying at the same time. If you see that and you think that's unauthentic and you're all worried about Tony Robbins and Brendan Bouchard, how it's disingenuous, you're missing the point entirely. Their job is to move you. The job of the story is to move you so that they know if they say it in a specific way and they go to a specific place that can make them tear up and make them, get emotional, go back there, they're going to move their audience at a higher level. And that's what matters, right? Kind of like ultimately the results and the benefit for your client is also, ultimately has to be the way that you're approaching it. So you got to create your stories is what I'm getting at, right? The same way that Tony Robbins, Brendan Bouchard, and all the greats have done it. You've got to do it. Can those bad boys and spit them out, right? Like, so you asked me for an example. Like, I'd say most business owners, they think in whole numbers and then they don't think in percentages. And then I would explain that the truth is that thinking in percentages is like a wealth hack, and not my wealth hack, not your wealth hack. I'm talking about Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Ray Dalio, Charlie Munger, like the greats, Bill Gates, the greats of the greats. They think in percentages. They don't think in whole numbers. Like, let me give you an example. We're driving traffic to a landing page and it has a 2% conversion, which would be okay. Well, we change the headline, we change the color, we change this, that, the other, and we increase the conversion to 3%. Look, that's not exciting by most people's account, right? 2 to 3. What is that? A 1% improvement? Who cares? It's not. Let's assume that campaign was making $50,000, right? Well, 2 to 3 is a 50% increase, not 1, right? You see the difference? So if they were making 50,000 a minute ago, now they're making 75 grand with that slight adjustment, right? Or let's say a business owner we're working with, they made $500,000 last year and they had 20% conversions. Well, we take their conversions from 20 to 30%, which appears to be a 10% improvement, right? Which would be an extra, if it was 500 grand, 10% of that is 50,000, right? Which is not bad, but not huge when you're already doing 500 grand. Well, 20 to 30 is actually a 50% improvement, right? Because 20 to 22 is 10, 20 to 24 is 20, 20 to 26 is 30. It's a 50% improvement. So if they were doing 500 grand a minute ago, when we increase their conversions by introducing, a puppy dog close or a money back guarantee or, any variety of ways that we would go and help somebody increase their conversions, which is normally very easy to do, by the way, but they're now making 750 grand, right? So these are the types of, examples. And remember, the average business owner is thinking, I want to hit $1 million. And again, if you've followed me for any period of time and you've listened to our podcast, et cetera, it's just a stupid goal. Hitting $1 million, that's what everybody, it's just that arbitrary number thrown out. You could hit 1 million and lose 50. You could hit 1 million and make 75. You could hit 1 million and make $500,000 of profit. Now there's your goal, right? Hit 1 million and, have gross profit, basically profit margins of 50%, and find a way, to net out so that a considerable portion of that $1 million lands in their bank account and stays in their bank account. Remember that saying, do they want to get big or do they want to get rich? And there's a big difference. Most people think getting big will make them rich. And I can show you a zillion examples, far more examples of, getting big, doing the opposite of helping the business get rich, right? Because again, it's just more expenses, more this, more that. Like it's do you want to get big or do you want to get rich? They want to get rich, but they don't know the roadmap. How do you get the roadmap? Basically by looking at their financials and kind of helping them with some very basic X and O's. It's easy to do. So Road Dog, that's what I do. I think in a nutshell, they don't trust you. You haven't provided a dynamic where you've got preeminence. And the way that you turn that around is by using stories and making sure that they see it as a benefit to show you their financials, which by the way, they probably don't have, which means that you're going to have to contact their accountant, help them get these financial, we'll call them report cards or scorecards. And now you potentially have a relationship with their accountant because he's going to love the idea of a business coach coming in and saying, look, you really need to sit down with your accountant and get this stuff. So bottom line, that's how I do it, Road Dog. It's a great question. I know that it's a challenge for a lot of business coaches, but it shouldn't be. And it's more mirror than window kind of dynamic. There you go, bud.
Okay, I get that. So, but get granular for me here. Okay, like what specifically are you looking for? Like in the numbers, right? Like let's just use an example. Like, let's say a client is just they're short on cash. They say they can't afford me. Like where do I go in and look, right? And like how do I create the money to pay for me? Like is there like 5 to 10, or is there sort of, are there specific things that you look at?
Areas? Yeah. Okay. So again, perfect. Very common for a business owner to say, my accountant says I'm profitable, or my numbers say I'm profitable. The taxes that I paid say that I'm profitable, right? But I've never got any money in my bank account, right? My sales go up, my sales go down, but I've never got any money in my bank account. Why and how does this work, right? Okay. Firstly, the eighth wonder of the world is that expenses have a way of creeping up to revenues. That's for you. That's for me. That's for Road Dog. That's for all business owners, right? So you've got to help. That is a psychology thing. You got to help your client manage their psychology so that they get excited about basically managing their expenses, I guess, which by the way is a hard thing to do. But remember, there's no such thing as a bad student. There's only a bad teacher. But do understand a lot of this is psychology, right? Well, I can tell you this, with 100% predictability, I can tell a client where to find his cash. And the good news is, in that instance, I'm profitable, but I got no cash. Where is it? The good news is that there's only 5 areas where you're going to find it, right? So 2 are on the balance sheet and 3 live on an income statement. And for those, again, listening and thinking, oh, I'm not familiar with the balance sheet, I'm not familiar with an income statement, I promise you guys, this is so easy to learn. It's scary. But let me just quickly. So 2, revenues and expenses, which are both found on the income statement, pretty obvious. And then inventory, accounts receivable, and accounts payable, which are found on your balance sheet, right? So an example that I've explained many times in the past, but it's what I refer to as sweetheart syndrome. So a great example is that, they don't, it's not that they don't bother to collect their money, but it's like they feel bad, or, they never want it. It's sexier and more fun and more exciting to go make new sales and do more deals and create new business than it is to go to the guy that owes you money from 30, 60, 90 days prior, right? So it's basically what I'm describing here is an accounts receivable problem where you're earning the work, you're doing the work, you're paying sales commissions on the work, or you're showing up and closing the work, you're fulfilling on the work, and then you're not collecting your money, right? Again, that lives on accounts receivable. So sweetheart syndrome is the guy who doesn't collect his money, but then they want to pay all their bills up front because they say to themselves, I don't like debt, right? So it's account payable on the other side of your balance sheet where, all the suppliers and whatnot. You know what I mean? Like you're not paying these, right? So like, let's just very quickly, inventory. If you own a bar, this is the bottles of alcohol. These are the kegs on hand, right? If you own a construction company, this is the amount of wood that you have and the stock that you keep in place, and then the waste, right? You cut a piece of wood and you cut it wrong and you got to throw it in the trash. Okay, this matters on your financials, right? Every time you do that, it comes straight off your bottom line, straight off of your profits, right? If they own a restaurant, this is the lettuce, the chicken, and the steaks, right? So what happens with a busy business owner? The supplier calls, they're super busy, they don't have time to go into the back and check, and they say, send me the same order you sent last week, 2 weeks ago, a month ago. And then what happens is it all builds up. They chuck it in the freezer, which means that their food now tastes like crap because it's frozen for long periods of time, right? So there's, again, managing all of this stuff. Or, the hair salon, they stock in the retail space, right? Or they've got, hair dye and this sort of stuff that's going in the, the client's hair, whatever that is. So like that's the wastage, right? When they don't manage it properly, they don't use it properly, right? So again, inventory, accounts receivable. Again, it's not sexy, but helping them manage this stuff, it's so insanely important, and it's so ridiculously common for somebody to have an accounts receivable problem. And just go and, if you're not completely familiar with this, just get 10 accountants on the phone and ask them, is accounts receivable a problem for a percentage of your clients? With 100% predictably, they're going to say, way too common, way too common. And by the way, when you have an accounts receivable problem, you pay tax, because accounts receivable, it makes your business appear to be more profitable, let's call it. Okay. And then you pay taxes on profits. So imagine have $100,000 in accounts receivable, and then 50 of that you're not going to collect, and then paying tax on that $50,000. Not only did you do the work, not get paid for the work, but now you're paying tax on the work, right? Like it's a massive problem. And if you have a coaching client that has that problem, the first thing you should do is basically patch that up. Take a Band-Aid, more to the point, some plaster, and fix that bad boy. And then accounts payable, they should not be in such a hurry to pay everybody. And I know it sounds a little bit strange to people that aren't totally familiar with this concept, but I'll just tell you, when you buy something for Apple, they don't pay you for 91 days, and there's a reason, right? So, and I'm not in any way suggesting you don't pay your bills. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm suggesting, not even close. It's just that when you have 30, 60, 90-day terms, when those are available, basically that's a free loan from the bank, and they should be taking advantage of that, right? And again, make sure that they're cleaning up their accounts receivable before they go and, pay clean up their accounts payable, I guess. And then revenues, million ways to do this. We've talked about it a zillion times in the past. You guys know that. So again, just, what are ways that you can do that? And then expenses, not sexy in any way, shape, or form, but it's just totally game changing. Again, the eighth wonder of the world is that expenses have a way of crawling up to revenues. Think about it this way. You have a client, and let's assume that they've got 20% net margin, right? Well, when you earn them $1, make a sale, hire a sales guy, knock on a door, run a Facebook ad, whatever it might be, and they make $1 and they got 20% margins, how much do they keep? And the answer is 20 cents. And then 80% gets lit on fire from expenses and et cetera, right? So they keep 20%. When you go to their expenses, their credit card statement or on an income statement to their expenses, and you save them $1, how much do they keep? And the answer is 100 cents, right? So just think about that. When you earn them $1, they keep 20. When you save them $1, they keep 100. But one is more fun than the other. One is more attractive. One is, one provides more excitement. So that's the one they go to. And that's revenues, when expenses is something that I would encourage you to dial in on. Not an overly exciting topic, but get Warren Buffett, get Charlie Munger, get Ray Dalio, get Jeff Bezos on the phone and see what they have to say. And they would tell you to go to expenses and turn it into a attractive topic. There you go, Road Dog. That's my answer, bud. What do you think? So it's 5 key areas, to be clear. Inventory, accounts receivable, accounts payable, revenues, and expenses. Your client says, I'm profitable, but I got no cash. The cash will be found in those 5 areas with 100% predictability. There you go.
Now, you just said, it's so true, right? Like, numbers aren't sexy, right? It's just it's not the sexy thing to bring in front of a client. It's like, hey, I've got this super sexy campaign idea or whatever. Like, that's a lot more attractive, especially, I don't know, that's like, is there any way that we can focus on financials later?
Yeah. Look, for sure, at 100%. I know a lot of, coaches, consultants, advisors, like you're listening and you're like, for sure, I want to go somewhere else other than here first. And you can't, right? But remember, what matters is that you put like results for your clients. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about Road Dog. It's just, and remember these words, Road Dog finishes off the podcast every time for a reason with us: progress equals happiness. So I would think about this in the first 30 to 90 days with your new high-end coaching client. I would always get super tactical, right? So strategy eats tactics for breakfast. You probably heard that said in some way, shape, or form, and hopefully you agree with me because that's absolutely the truth, right? But the problem is, so I would never do it at the expense of strategy, but I get tactical early because I want to put some runs on the board, right? I want to progress equals happiness. So I want them to feel a little bit of, I want them to feel some results, right? So when I get too strategic, it's long term, and then they don't feel the results. They don't feel the progress, right? So they start thinking, this isn't going anywhere, and they cancel. So like strategy, think of it as oxygen, right? It's valuable as valuable could be, but they can't see it, they can't taste it, they can't grab onto it. So it's underappreciated, right? So in the first, 30, 60, 90 days, I get tactical. So we put some runs on the board. The client starts feeling good. Again, I don't do it at expensive strategy, but strategy isn't necessarily, the bullseye that I'm looking for, because I'm trying to get some runs on the board, right? So the numbers aren't sexy. You are correct, right? But look, is this sexy? Finding 12 months of your fees within the first 30 or 60 days with your clients. Now that's sexy, right? So if you're trying to find those fees in the first 60 days, and you basically make yourself a free resource for the following 10 months of the relationship, and you could show them tangibly, like point at it, say, this is what we just accomplished. I know it doesn't feel so world conquering when we extrapolate these numbers over 12 months. How incredible is that? Again, it's a better place to start. So remember what I said. When you make a sale, you got 20% margins, they keep 20 cents. But when you go to their expenses and you save them $1, they keep 100 cents. If you wanted to cover your fees in the first 30 to 60 days of your relationship, where would be a smarter place to start, right? It's not the sexiest place to start, but it's an important place to start. Remember, it's managing that psychology to make it something that they're excited about, right? And how do you do that? Turn that, this work into, that's going to be 60 grand, and that's the BMW that you wanted to buy. Or, I'm $2,000 a month, I'm $24,000 a year. Let's assume those are your fees. Well, I'm going to be free for the next 12 months, right? The free trip to Hawaii, the free cruise, 1 month off over the summer without them having to, worry about money or whatever that might look like. So, just educate them that Facebook ads and the sexy stuff are the trap, right? Because at the end of the day, 90% of businesses fail, right? Those aren't my numbers. They're not Road Dog's numbers. They're not, some fictitious. These are the numbers, right? So like, why is that? And there's a reason behind it. So, you need these guys to, think, but the only way you're going to be able to get there is to educate them. And the way to educate them is not through facts. What I did a minute ago, you got to have your canned stories, your canned examples, your canned metaphors, right? And the thing is, like, again, when the business coaches come and work with us, one of the things is this is what we provide them. Like in our training, we have this training where we can show any business owner, any business coach how to find any business owner $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending $1 on marketing or advertising. Well, that training is littered with examples, stories, and metaphors. And then what our coaches are able to do is they can go out and they can say we instead of I, and then we provide them a lot of those stories until they have their own, or they take our stories and they can adjust them a little bit to make their own. But that's the way you do it, Road Dog, right? You want to make something sexy. It has to be positioned as benefit for them, and they have to trust you, and they have to feel that you've got the credibility to be able to pull off whatever it is that you're talking about. Like, if I look at your financials, I'm going to be able to create, money in your bank account as a result of that. They're going to show them to you, So that's what I'd say, Road Dog. I know it's not a sexy topic. It's managing their psychology, and I would just leave you with no such thing as a bad student. There's only a bad teacher, and you will get better at it. So you're going to try. Don't expect to be able to, in one day be able to go and study this stuff and then be magic at it. Start on Monday and then be magic at it on Tuesday. Like I always talk about mastery. You just got to don't compete with me. Don't compete with Road Dog. Don't compete with Tony Robbins or Jay Abraham or whoever. You compete with you yesterday. Just every day a little bit better. Every day a little bit better. Every day a little bit better. You get a compounding effect. And in 10 days, you'll start to feel it. In 90 days, you'll be like, wow. In 12 months, it'll probably blow your mind. A decade of learning every single day and the compounding effect, it'll blow you away. So be kind to yourself, I guess. So there you go, Road Dog. That's my answer sheet.
So I just got to say, where was it? I wrote this down. Numbers aren't sexy, but finding your 12 months of fees quickly is. I freaking love that. Like that is.
Yeah.
Like I realize, and again, that's probably just ego speaking, right? Like, oh, well, no, I can come up with some super sexy campaign or idea or strategy or whatever. But it's so true, right? Like how many times do those things take time to actually work out, and then how many times do they follow through? The numbers are the numbers. Like it's just, those are the facts, right? You can't dispute that. And your fees for 12 months, then it's a slam dunk. But anyway, all right, I got to shake that off. No numbers talk. Let's just I'm going to shift completely a different direction here. Before everyone completely falls asleep because, numbers. Let's talk about personal brand and how, because we always get this, like, how do you establish a personal brand? So I just thought maybe you can shed some sort of insight into this in terms of, because you've got a bit of a brand, obviously yourself. You speak to a ton of people, big, powerful coaches that have their own brand. So success leaves clues, my friend. So how do you establish a personal brand?
Establish a personal brand. Again, great. Love it. I think this is the kind of thing that coaches should be thinking about. Again, take the long ball, delayed gratification. Don't think that you're just going to start tomorrow and be recognized as this local guru immediately, but do understand that if you stick with it, that will absolutely happen. So this may or may not be something you spent a lot of time on, but I think you should. Your personal brand is like the perception held in someone else's mind about you, right? So over time, with more exposure, it's going to sharpen and it's going to evolve, both good and bad, by the way, which could be a positive and a negative, depending upon your stature and the way you're putting it out there. But, it's very similar to your identity. Your personal brand will have a monster impact on your success, right? So yes, it can dramatically improve with a little bit of focus and effort. And you probably don't realize you've already got one. And if you're wondering what it is, look here, I'll not, in 5 key attributes, I'll tell you what your personal brand is. 1, your personal standards, right? Opinionated, driven, reliable, a good listener, right? Secondly, your personal abilities, right? So like, are you a good coach? Are you a good father? Are you a good marketer? Are you a good digital marketer? Are you a good writer, a good copywriter? Are you a good salesperson, right? So what are your personal abilities? Your key traits. So think like you just said a second ago, Road Dog, like people who know me, I know that like action orientated, I think is what people will be, like a doer as opposed to a talker. I feel like I hope, but I certainly work every day to fall into, an action orientated individual, right? Or unrelenting, analytical, creative. But again, think artsy, an artsy type or like an analytical type. Again, like that falls as your key trait. And then your relatability. Are you deliberate? Are you controlling, enthusiastic? Are you over the top? Are you understated? Are you professional? Professional would be one that would fall in. Think of the doctor that lives on your street or the doctor that you know, right? So, or maybe this is easily, more easily expressed this way. Like your personal brand's a reflection of who you are, what you do, how you do it, and then really importantly, what you believe, right? You ever met somebody who's just like lucky, right? You're like, gosh, everything falls into line for this guy or gal. And then on the other side of it, somebody who just literally can't catch a break, right? Again, this is our personal brand right there. Bingo, bango, bongo. So success over the long haul, it's just never an accident. It doesn't happen in isolation. I want you to think success is a result of successful relationships. You show me somebody who's successful, get uber successful, Bezos and Gates and all these, Dalio, Buffett, Munger, etc. Or let's go moderately successful, somebody who's worth, multiple seven figures and, lives in your suburb and drives a really nice car. It's just, if you introduce me to that person who over the long haul, anybody can get rich for a week, right? Over the long haul is where it really matters. Well, you show me somebody who's successful over the long haul and I'll show you somebody with successful relationships, right? So I think operating, your life and your business to create a personal brand, like you want it to be clear, you want it to be complete, and you want it to be of, what am I going to say, like massive value to others. That's what I think. If you were to like really nail it down, what are you looking to accomplish with your personal brand? Make it clear, make it complete, right? Really important word. And then massive value to others. And then help your coaching clients do the same. And again, a saying of mine comes to mind, but you can get lucky and make it, but you can't get lucky and keep it. So yeah, great question, Road Dog. Of all that, I would take two words: successful relationships. That is how you build a really powerful brand, because people, like the people that you're spending time with and the people that you're hanging out with, like in our world, like we have some of the top coaches in the entire world that are working with us, some of which we've helped to grow to become some of the top coaches in the world, but also, other big names that the folks listening would have heard of. They are our clients. They pay our monthly fees. That's not going to happen, if we don't have a brand and built over a long period of time. So personal brand, I love it, quite frankly, Road Dog, but I wrote an email about that some time ago, and powerful stuff in my opinion. I love it.
So let me put a twist on this just for a sec. Like, let's just assume that they already have a bit of a personal brand. Like, how can someone improve, right? Is there anything that you would say that they can do to maybe improve upon what they're currently doing?
Look, to be meaningful, your personal brand needs to become part of everything you do, right? Especially those critical moments when you're put to the test. For an athlete, in the last 2 minutes of the game when it's won and lost, like I've played in, some high stakes hockey games with national championships, world championships on the line, and it never ceases to amaze me. The guys who, quote unquote, lose it, right? As in start a scrap when things are not going their way. And it's always at the most critical of times. Like they choose to start a fight in the last 2 minutes of the game when we're trying to make a 2-goal comeback, right? Like I'm sitting there trying to work out how I'm going to score a goal, and they're trying to work out how they can become the center of attention, right? Like effectively what's happened in that instance is they've given up, right? We've all seen it. Football games, baseball games, happens all the time, right? So again, they just, look, they want to be the center of attention. And then Tony Robbins' world, this would be somebody who's driven by significance, right? They're not driven by winning and losing and team play, et cetera. Kind of driven by, just significance in a word, right? So like if you want to become that person, your quote unquote, your team can count on, here's what I'd say, like identify truthfully what your personal brand is, right? Your little red arrow, you are here. So what are your standards? What are your abilities? What are your traits? And what's that relatability factor with you, right? Understand that the best personal brand is one that's constantly refined and improved. So don't just feel like you're going to get pigeonholed, like you're this, you're the guy that's overweight, you're a smoker, you're unsuccessful. Don't think that you can't improve it with time. Remember, the solution to that is mastery. Every single day, small, slight improvements. That's the magic, right? And then also be strategic about the traits that you want to represent, right? I think be proud of your personal brand. Like, again, I would dare say, think of the guy who's smoking and, I don't know, smoking, smoking and drinking all the time. This is somebody who's not proud of his or her personal brand, right? Identify the values you want to hold yourself, and hold yourself with confidence, poise, humility. Like when you do that, your personal brand will elevate. I mean, it's a journey. It's not like a destination that you've got a personal brand and you hold it, right? Like again, Road Dog, how do you improve it? By one, small, sturdy steps, right? Definitely like align what you say with what you do, right? You're not going to be perfect here. No one is. I most certainly am not. Tony Robbins is not. All the gurus, Warren Buffett, he is not perfect, but he stretched the imagination. He'd tell you that, right? But it's critical you keep these two in close proximity with one another, right? What you say and what you do. And then I would just look in closing, like your personal brand will be dramatically affected by the company you keep. The end, right? Strategically surround yourself with people that have similar values to the personal brand that you want to represent, right? We've all heard that, you are who you hang out with, right? Like love your family, choose your peers is, again, we've all heard it. And it's not like scroll through your Facebook. And if you're a business coach, then you probably follow some of these guys, but the guy wearing the flashy suit and he's standing in front of a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or a plane that he doesn't own, right? Like personal brand goes so much deeper than what I'd refer to as a slick veneer, right? When someone think about it, when someone takes the time to pose in front of a car that they don't own and quite frankly could not afford, right? Otherwise, they probably wouldn't be taking a photo in front of it. And then they post it all over their social media profiles. I mean, they're an idiot, right? Like, just give me a break. Do you really think somebody who's legitimately successful is going to do that, right? And it's different if you actually bought the car and then took a photo. And I even think that would hover on the incredibly lame side. But there are dynamics at play there. And if you've worked really hard and then you bought this kick-ass car that you really want to show off, then all the power to you, right? But I got to tell you, when you look back at that photo, look, here's the acid test. Look back at your photos and your postings over the last 12 months. You should actually take some time to do that, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever you're posting. And then look at the ones that you if you're honest with yourself, maybe on a little bit on the cringeworthy side. And I most definitely have got some of those, I can tell you, whatever, but that's, look, hey, I went back, I looked at it, and like, you know what, is this what I want to is this how I want to put myself out there? There's a pretty good chance the answer is no. So that's the acid test right there. But a journey, not a destination. Don't flip through your Facebook page and then all of a sudden beat yourself up for the next 3 weeks because, oh my gosh, how could I be such an idiot to take a photo in front of a plane? He's so right. Like, just improve over time. You're all good, right? But anyway, so I just don't see somebody legitimately being successful doing that. So I would caution you. What you do. So what's the counter of that? What's the solution? When I go to your Facebook feed, I want to see you helping people. Like, that's it. Like, when I put a post up, I mean, it is the best of my ability. What I'm trying to do is help people, right? I'm not going, hey, how can I get them to pay me? I'm not thinking, hey, how can I, turn this into a Trojan horse and turn it into X, Y, Z? I'm like, I know because if you go to my Facebook profile, I mean, I've got 5,000 friends on there, right? Like the vast majority, I'm going to dare say 4,500 of them will be people in a business coaching, marketing, kind of sense. So what I do is I post things that if I were to read this, and that's what often copywriting is you writing to yourself. So a lot of the time, like when I do my daily email, I'm really teaching myself. I've learned more doing a daily email. I'm over, I think I'm 370 odd daily emails. I've learned more than everybody else combined, right? Like again, an incredibly valuable thing, and not to mention discipline falls into that big time. If you were to take on a daily email, I can tell you that you will learn an absolute ton, no question about that. But the discipline is going to just blow your mind, and then you take that discipline and lay it into other areas. It's a bit of a game changer, but that's your personal brand, right? Like when you get a daily email from me, and then I'm got 370 daily emails. Look, what does that say? That's my personal brand, big time, right? So anyway, so that's and it's not about me. This is about you guys. If I were to encourage you, if I was a business coach looking to crush it, the post that I put out there, the energy that I would put out there, the saying and doing that I would try to align would be when people read my post, listen to my conversations, listen to my interview. Like one of the things, I no longer do interviews, right? Reason, every time I get interviewed, I just feel like I'm getting cut off all the time, right? And good, bad, and different, ego trip, I don't know. I don't care. This is the stance that I've got. I just don't do them because I keep getting cut off. And I'm like, you got an hour of my time. I think that I have something pretty good to share. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been here. So don't ask me a question and then cut me off when I'm only 25% into my answer. And no doubt Road Dogg knows that I can go down rabbit holes and answer, very long-windedly. But why would you care? If people are going to listen, the whole idea is that they get value, I believe, from the interview, right? So I don't know. That's just my personal brand. I don't want to have a bunch of interviews out there where people are asking me what my favorite meal is, my favorite band, my crush when I was in high school. That's just not what I want out there, right? So I just went, you know what, screw it, not doing it anymore. And I get asked, I got 100,000 people on my email list, and I got 900 clients in 24 countries. I'm not exactly short on somebody asking me for an interview, but I'm answering. This isn't about me. That's not what I'm trying to bring across. This is part of my personal brand. Like I didn't make that decision going, my personal brand needs to be that I don't do interviews. It's just that I'm like, I don't see the value there, right? So we'll go to my Facebook page. You'll see very long-winded posts that I think are incredibly valuable. And that's how I do it. So I don't know. Here, in closing, here's a quote for everybody. Your personal brand is a relationship, not a statement, right? That's it. It is a relationship. What relationship do you have with people on your Facebook feed? What relationship do you have with local business owners? What relationship do you have with the Chamber of Commerce? What relationship do you have with the head of the BNI? And the problem with most business coaches, because delayed gratification isn't something that they're thinking about. What they're doing is they're spending too much time getting the chamber on the phone and trying to sell them instead of providing value. That's what I think, your personal brand, you want it to be that, wow, this is a real giver. This is somebody who really provides value. This is somebody interested in providing like greater good for the local, the local economy, the local whatever. So I don't know, Road Dogg, what do you think? That's how you can improve your personal brand. But I do love the question, by the way. Awesome.
What do I think? I think I'd like to know when it comes to influencers, people's brands, like, are there any of those guys out there that you, pick on? That you, because I know of, like, we don't need to start talking about the secret, but like, I know that there's a few that you really like to pick. Like, you can go as deep and long as you want on this answer. It's up to you, but it just makes me think, because I know exactly how you feel about this stuff, but it's like there's a lot of noise out there. So who do you like to pick on?
Yeah. Okay. So maybe give everybody some context here. Like influencers, guys, again, that when you're scrolling for your Facebook feed, the guy that's filling it up and selling this, that, and the other, the gal, look, generally speaking, this is what I would refer to as an influencer. They probably don't have a business on the back end. So I'd just be cautious, and I've been wrong before, and I could be wrong on your specific news feed, but you're going to find, or LinkedIn and Instagram and whatever it might be, right? But look, there is no secret sauce. If you just look at the title, just go to Amazon and look at the title of the best-selling quote-unquote books are the guys in your Facebook feed and the gals what they're selling, right? These titles, they all have sexy, delusional titles. You just said The Secret, right? There is no secret to success. It's hard, bloody work, but that book's not going to sell well, right? The 4-Hour Work Week. I love Tim Ferriss. I love his podcast. I think the guy's great, right? The 4-Hour Work Week is actually a great book. The problem is people buy it, they read the cover, they think that they read the book. On a subconscious level, they start thinking that 4 hours a week is their subconscious mind tells them that working 4-hour week is suddenly the goal, right? Look, it's just stupidity. Give me a break. Nobody, I'll give you the red hot tip. Bezos ain't working 4 hours a week. Buffett, guys are billionaires, aren't working 4 hours a week. Bill Gates is still working a plenty. I certainly do not do 4 hours, 4-hour work weeks, quote unquote. And I ain't looking to do it, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But if you read the book is not about working 4 hours. It's about a lifestyle. It's about getting 40 hours of work done in 4 hours by being intelligent, outsourcing this kind of thing, right? So what happens is a lot of business coaches will follow Tim Ferriss, and again, great guy, great podcast, but he's never built a business of even moderate significance. So if you want to build a company, don't follow Tim Ferriss, right? If you want to build a podcast and write a best-selling book, Tim Ferriss is your guy, right? Or Michael Gerber, I'd say him too. Like, guy wrote a great book, never built a business, right? The E-Myth, fabulous book. Tony Robbins recommends it, right? But Michael Gerber has never, built a business. So I'm sorry, that's just not, I'll read his book, and I have read his book, and I think it's fabulous, but I'm not going to follow Michael Gerber as my guy that's going to teach me how to build a business. I'm just not. Because again, knowing and doing are two different things. And I follow the guys that do. Again, I've said this a million times on the podcast, but I read letters to shareholders. Read the letters to shareholders of Alphabet or Google and Jeff Bezos. Some of the best learnings of all time. Read, essays. There's a book, Essays by Warren Buffett. Read the Berkshire Hathaway letters to shareholders. That's where you learn. This is the type of stuff I'd be encouraging you to get your head around versus, follow some folks that haven't actually built businesses. So I guess that would be an example. I read, like high ticket sales, right? Recurring revenue would be a lot better idea to follow than high ticket sales, but high ticket sales is sexy. So therefore it's there, right? The sales funnel, right? Russell Brunson, funnel this, funnel that. There's no such thing as a sales funnel. It's a series of clips. So if you actually think of it as a series of clips and help your clients think of it as a series of clips, you'd be 1,000,000 times better off, right? Again, I see people all the time railing on Elon Musk and he's crazy. And like, he is crazy. I got a saying, the crazy ones make all the money, right? Elon Musk is dead set nuts. If he wasn't so good at business, they might institutionalize the guy, right? But God, can this guy build a business? This guy's a freaking rock star, right? So follow Tesla, follow Netflix, follow Facebook and Zuckerberg. I don't care if you love Zuckerberg or you hate him. Look, Facebook is like, it's got more use, like it's just unbelievably successful. Goes without saying. Surely I don't need to back that one up, right? So don't worry about whether you do or do not like Zuck. Look at some of the intelligence behind his company. So I just think that that's 1,000,000 times better off. If you like this topic, what I want to encourage you to do is read a book called The Outsiders. It's unbelievable, and it'll basically show you that the guys in front of the camera and behind the microphone, and as an example, Jack Welch, and again, I wrote an email about this. My dad wasn't real happy because he's a fan, but the legend is significantly greater than his results. But because he was so good in front of the camera and so good behind the microphone, talking to everybody, and he was so, he wrote us some great books. Everybody just assumed that he was an absolute legend, right? Which by the way, he is. But if you look at like Buffett, do you see Buffett running around getting interviewed? No. Do you see Bezos running around getting interviewed? No. Do you see Zuckerberg running around getting interviewed? No. The guys that own Google, like these are the guys that why? Because they're building their company. Again, for me, why don't I do interviews? It's the same thing. I'm busy building a company. We're in 24 countries. I got my clients. I got my software. I've got systems that I'm trying to build, that my staff is trying to build, that we've already built, and we're trying to improve. So this is where we're spending our time. not running around doing interviews and trying to, get, a little bit of fame or, whatever that is. That's my take. And by the way, that can work very, very well for different individuals. So you work out what your long game is and you work out what's right for you. But again, becoming an influencer, quote unquote, is just something that I'm vehemently opposed, but pretty close, right? Like another one, systems will set you free, right? Systems stifle creativity. That's what they do, right? And if you're hiring 16-year-olds like McDonald's, look, systemize away. But you want to hire professionals and you want those guys to stick around for a long time. This is not a good, you don't want to be systemizing too much. You want to empower these people. People support things they help create. Let them help create what it is that you're building, right? Like I remember when I was playing hockey, I took the C, like I was the captain of the team and you wear a C in hockey, right? I gave it to the next best player. Why? Because I knew that I was going to show up and I wanted to empower my teammate, right? His name was Danny Gunn, by the way. And then 2 years later, Danny Gunn, he wore the C for 2 years. And then we gave it to Ross Fisher. And I spoke to Danny about, do you think this is a good idea? Here's why I did it for you. This is why I want to do it to, I want to give it to Ross. And guess what? These guys stepped up immeasurably and we won a bunch of championships. Well, generally speaking, most folks would rather have the C on their shirt so that, the picture and I don't know, for whatever reason, I was like, I'm going to show up. I wanted to win. That's what I wanted to do. Right. So, another thing, like everybody needs to, I'm trying to think of, different, like popular advice out there and what I hear from quote unquote, these influencers that have never built a company, right? Everyone needs to get on the same page. This is advice from rookies. Communication, if you look at a big company, a growing company, communication is the killer of productivity in a growing environment. Yes, there needs to be some communication, but you need to be very, very cautious with who's communicating with who, right? So they need to be if you're the CEO, your client's the CEO, the different silos and the different, what are we going to call them? Group, like project managers need to be communicating with you, but you don't necessarily want them to be communicating with one another. Not everybody in the company needs to be on the same page. That's your job as a CEO. Once that happens, it's killer of productivity. The end, right? So I know that's so many more, and by the way, don't listen. And okay, so gosh, Karl, like everybody being on the same page, that's bad advice. Like, are you sure? Like, where does this come from? This is not me speaking. This is Jeff Bezos. Go read the letters to shareholders and have a look at what they're talking about. And it'll be, basically right there in black and white. Right. So yeah, just look, there's a lot. And again, as part of this, which may be the marketing message for everybody listening, what I want you to do, and I've given this as homework before, and we talked about it probably not long ago, but I want you to come up with things that you stand against. You want to get the attention of the business owner. Like Road Dog, you started this off with, my client, won't let me, doesn't want to show me my financials. The way that you get them to show your financials, which is really build up your preeminence, is that you stand against things, right? So think of the example, do you want to get big or do you want to get rich? Believe me, I don't need to meet them to know that they're thinking getting big equals getting rich. When you give them an example, no, that's a bad, like hitting $1 million, hitting $10 million, this is a bad goal. Let's talk about profitability. Let's build the business of our dreams, not one that, is going to hit our financial goal, call it $1 million a year, and then lose 60 grand. That's like a bad idea, right? So that's an example of something that I would say, or I stand against the 4-hour work week, or I stand against, following influencers that haven't actually built a business, right? I stand against high ticket sales. I stand against sales funnels as examples. This is not black and white statements here, but pretty close, right? Because again, they need to have context, and very seldom do they come with context. Those are things that I stand against. The 4-hour work week. What do you stand against? Well, come up with 3 to 5. And then when you speak to the business owner, you speak to the accountant, you speak to the gal at the chamber, the head of the chamber, the B&I group, the business owner, the quote unquote influencer who can introduce you to people and really change the game for you locally. instead, remember, you want to have these canned stories. As part of those canned stories, I would encourage you to have things that you stand against. And when the canned stories that you're going to pull out like a politician, no matter what, pull out ones that you stand against, right? Again, a huge challenge that business coaches have is it's all kumbaya, jumping up and down, clapping hands, and the sky's so blue. I can't wait. Everybody's going to make so much money. This is going to be amazing. That kind of language, and that's fine, but I would be encouraging you to go stand against over fluffy clouds all day long and twice on Sunday if you want this client to whip over their credit card and say, holy smokes, I want to work with you starting this second. Please don't leave my office. Don't hang up the phone without accepting my money. So standing against is very, very powerful. And what do I stand against? Just go to 90% of the best-selling books. Before I just mentioned a bunch of them, right? It's just, they're designed, passive income is another one. Multiple streams of income. I've talked about that a zillion times. Look, get one. If you introduce me to somebody with multiple streams of income, I'll introduce you to somebody with, really poor streams of income, right? Get $1 to $5 million before you even talk to me about the second one, right? Would be an example. So anyway, standing against is very powerful. So specific influencers, though, I don't want to pick on anybody in the B list. Just go to your Facebook feed. You're going to see them spewing garbage. Look right through that stuff. How do you do it? Use mental models. Again, on the podcast, I've talked about this a lot. Charlie Munger is like the OG of mental models. Understand that, before making a decision, run it through a mental model, right? Like 80-20 would be an example, right? So that's what I would say. Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. Thinking about that, like, moral of the story, harden the heck up and stop. Like, if you're in a hurricane, you'll grab onto any tree, right? No doubt you'd agree with that. Well, when you're not operating with mental models, I think that you flip through your Facebook feed, and then what's another one? You'll never be. I saw this. We talked about this, Road Dog. You'll never be criticized by somebody doing more than you, right? Read that. I see that thing shared, and this and that and the other, and it's like, that is so dumb. You know what I mean? Like, I know people that are doing a million times more than I am, railing against me and anybody else, right? Like, that's just not true, right? Like, what am I getting at? When you'll grab onto any tree in a hurricane, when you're flipping through your Facebook feed and you're not operating off of business models, you're not operating with a foundation in place, you'll fall for a bunch of this stuff, like the new Facebook hack and the new Instagram hack and the new, Clubhouse. I'm not even going to go there, but Clubhouse would be an example. You notice that Clubhouse isn't nearly as exciting all of a sudden, right? It's just like it was the flavor of the month, and everybody's spending hours and hours and hours on this thing. I'm like, oh my good word, right? My good word. What are you doing? Like, and in some cases, some people did well with it, right? But those that went in with a strategy, like Grant Cardone went in with a strategy. I don't know if Gary Vee was there or not, but if he was there with a strategy. The problem is most go into Clubhouse and they didn't have a strategy. So therefore, what they did is they just smoked a bunch of time listening to other people spew on for like 4 hours, and then got really excited because they got to chair a meeting with some influencer, quote unquote, not really realizing that influencer really hadn't accomplished a heck of a lot, right? Like, again, that influencer was trying to work out how they're going to pay their mortgage this month. Maybe that's getting a little bit harsh, but you get the idea. So, Road Dog, I don't want to pick on anybody specific or the B list or whatever, but if you just go to your Facebook feed, the guy that's standing in front of the Rolls Royce that he doesn't own, the house that he doesn't own, the jet that he doesn't own, and, always talking on their phone, by the way. I don't know where that comes from, but that's not the person to follow. That's all I can say. They might have a great title to their book, but be cautious. And the way that you manage that is operate off of mental models. Maybe we could talk about that later, Road Dog. But that's my answer, bud. How'd I do, man?
So to follow up all of your great little quotes that you had there, I'm going to add one more to the list by the late, great Gord Downey of the Tragically Hip. No one's interested in something you didn't do.
That's from a song. Yeah, there you go.
It is. It is. So there you go, folks. So if I'm going to go ahead and pick the one thing today for you to do, and that is create your list of things that you stand against. So go ahead, put that list together. If you are part of our community, put that into the group. Like let's have some conversations about it. And anyways, that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in to another great episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the man on top of the hill, my boy King Karl. If you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show and aren't part of our community and you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, you just want more information on how to build your coaching company, visit focused.com and subscribe today. Again, also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a fellow coach or someone you think that might make a great coach. And of course, as always, we'd appreciate if you'd rate this episode, as we know that iTunes, Spotify, and all the streaming services give an insane amount of weight towards reviews. So please leave us a review if you like what you heard. And I can't believe it, but that's it for another week. So get out there, everybody, make some magic happen. And remember, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.